Sophia woke up early on the morning of her wedding, feeling both excited and nervous. Today was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. She had planned everything perfectly: the white dress, the flowers, the big church, and the fancy hotel for the reception. But deep down, Sophia wasn't sure about Daniel, her fiancé. He was handsome and rich, but he always acted like he was better than everyone else. Still, she told herself it didn't matter. This was her dream wedding, and nothing could ruin it. At the church, Sophia walked down the aisle, holding her father's arm tightly. Her heart raced as she saw Daniel waiting at the altar. But just as the priest started speaking, Daniel stopped him. "I can't do this," Daniel said loudly, his voice echoing through the silent church. "I'm sorry, Sophia." Before anyone could say anything, Daniel turned and walked out. The room erupted into whispers, and Sophia stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. Humiliated, she ran out of the church, ignoring the stares of her friends and family. She kept running until she reached the garden of the luxury hotel where the reception was supposed to happen. There, she collapsed onto a bench, sobbing. A man approached her, tall, with kind eyes and dressed in a waiter's uniform. "Are you okay?" he asked gently, handing her a glass of water. Sophia shook her head, too upset to speak. The man sat beside her, listening quietly as she poured out her heart. His name was Ethan, and though he looked like just a waiter, there was something comforting about him. For the first time that day, Sophia felt like someone truly cared. Little did she know, Ethan was far more than he seemed. Sophia sat on the bench, tears still streaming down her face. Ethan handed her another tissue, his calm presence somehow making her feel a little better. "I can't believe he did that," Sophia said between sobs. "In front of everyone. How could he embarrass me like this?" Ethan nodded, his expression understanding. "That must have been really hard. But maybe it's for the best. You deserve someone who truly cares about you." Sophia wiped her eyes and looked at him. "You don't even know me. Why are you being so nice?" Ethan shrugged with a small smile. "Sometimes people just need someone to listen. Besides, I've seen enough weddings here to know they don't always end happily." Sophia let out a shaky laugh. "Well, mine definitely didn't." For a moment, they sat in silence, the sounds of distant chatter from the hotel filling the air. Sophia glanced back at the building, where guests were probably already gossiping about what had happened. The thought made her stomach twist with anger and shame. "I hate him," she muttered under her breath. "I don't need him. I'll show him I don't need anyone." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah? And how are you going to do that?" Without thinking, Sophia blurted out, "I'll marry someone else. Right now." Ethan stared at her, clearly surprised. "What? You heard me," Sophia said, her voice rising with determination. "If Daniel thinks he can walk away and make me look pathetic, I'll prove him wrong. I'll marry you." Ethan blinked, stunned. "Me?" "Yes, you," Sophia said, standing up. "Why not? You're kind, you're here, and you're definitely not like him." Ethan hesitated, unsure if she was serious. But then he saw the fire in her eyes, the mix of defiance and desperation, and something inside him softened. "Okay," he said finally, smiling slightly. "Let's do it." Sophia grinned, suddenly feeling bold. "Great, let's go." They hurried back into the hotel, where decorations from the abandoned reception were still set up. With the help of a few confused staff members and some leftover champagne, they held a quick, impromptu ceremony. As they exchanged playful vows, Sophia felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time that day, she wasn't thinking about Daniel or the humiliation. She was doing something completely unexpected, and it felt kind of freeing. What she didn't realize was that Ethan wasn't just a waiter. He owned the entire hotel and much more. The next morning, Sophia woke up in a small but cozy apartment. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, and for a moment, she forgot where she was. Then it all came rushing back: the wedding disaster, Ethan, and their impulsive decision to get married. She sat up, rubbing her temples. "What have I done?" she muttered to herself. Ethan walked into the room carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Morning," he said with a warm smile. I thought you might need this. Sophia took the coffee, grateful for the caffeine but still overwhelmed. Thanks, she mumbled. So, what happens now? Ethan shrugged. We figure it out, I guess. One day at a time. As the days passed, Sophia began adjusting to life in Ethan's modest apartment. It was nothing like the luxury she was used to. No fancy furniture, no housekeeping staff, and definitely no private chef. First, she struggled. She missed her old life, her spacious bedroom, and the ease of having everything handed to her. But Ethan made things easier. He cooked simple meals, told funny stories about his job as a waiter, and never complained about the mess she left behind. Slowly, Sophia started noticing little things about him. How thoughtful he was, how patient he remained even when she snapped at him, and how genuinely happy he seemed despite not having much. One evening, as they sat on the couch eating takeout pizza, Sophia asked, "Why did you agree to marry me? You didn't even know me." Ethan thought for a moment before answering. Maybe because you reminded me of something I'd forgotten, that life doesn't always have to follow a script. Sometimes taking a chance can lead to something real. His words stayed with her long after the conversation ended. For the first time, Sophia realized that maybe this crazy decision wasn't such a mistake after all. Little did she know, Ethan had secrets of his own. Secrets that would change everything once again. As weeks turned into months, Sophia began noticing things about Ethan that didn't quite add up. At first, they were small details, things she brushed off as coincidences or quirks. But the more time passed, the harder it became to ignore them. It started with the car. One day, Ethan borrowed a sleek black luxury sedan from a friend to run errands. When Sophia asked about it, he simply said, "Oh, my buddy lets me use it sometimes." She nodded, though something about his answer felt off. Then there was the apartment building. The doorman always greeted Ethan with unusual respect, calling him Mr. Carter instead of just Ethan. And when they went grocery shopping, people in expensive suits would stop him to shake his hand or thank him for everything you've done. One evening, while Ethan was out picking up dinner, Sophia decided to tidy up their apartment. As she straightened his desk, she noticed an envelope peeking out from under a stack of papers. Curious, she opened it and found a document inside. Her eyes widened. It was a lease agreement for the hotel where her failed wedding had taken place. Wait, what? Sophia whispered to herself. Before she could process it, Ethan walked in carrying bags of food. Seeing the papers in her hands, his expression shifted slightly, but he quickly masked it with a smile. "Dinner's here," he said casually, setting the bags down. Sophia held up the document. "Care to explain this?" Ethan hesitated, then shrugged. "It's nothing important, just some paperwork for a friend." "A friend owns that hotel?" Sophia pressed, pointing at the name on the paper. "Yes," Ethan replied smoothly. "He needed help managing it, so I signed some forms for him." Sophia narrowed her eyes but let it go, for now. Still, the discovery gnawed at her. Why would a waiter have connections to such a high-end place? And why did everyone treat him like he was someone important? Over the next few days, more oddities surfaced. They visited a restaurant where the staff treated Ethan like royalty, offering dishes that weren't even on the menu. On another occasion, Sophia overheard someone referring to him as the owner during a phone call. Each clue made her more suspicious, but also confused. If Ethan wasn't who he claimed to be, then who was he? And why had he lied to her? Despite her doubts, Sophia couldn't deny how much she cared about him. He was kind, supportive, and made her laugh in ways no one else ever had. Maybe the truth didn't matter as much as how he treated her, or so she tried to convince herself. But deep down, she knew answers were coming, whether she was ready for them or not. Despite the nagging questions in her mind, Sophia couldn't ignore how much Ethan had come to mean to her. Every day, he showed her kindness and patience, treating her like she was the most important person in his life. Slowly but surely, her suspicions began to fade. Not because they disappeared, but because her feelings for him grew stronger. One rainy afternoon, as they sat together on the couch watching an old movie, Sophia leaned against Ethan's shoulder. "You're nothing like Daniel," she said softly. Ethan glanced at her, surprised. Is that a good thing? It's a great thing, she replied, smiling. He never cared about anyone but himself. You're different. Ethan didn't respond right away. Instead, he wrapped an arm around her, pulling her closer. I'm glad you think so, he murmured. Sophia looked up at him. Why do you act like you don't see how amazing you are? I've made mistakes, Ethan admitted quietly. Things I'm not proud of. But being with you, it makes me want to be better. His honesty touched her deeply. For all the mysteries surrounding him, Ethan was open about his emotions in a way Daniel never had been. He listened when she spoke, supported her dreams, and encouraged her to find joy in the little things. Their bond deepened further when Ethan helped Sophia reconnect with her passion for painting, a hobby she'd abandoned after years of focusing on pleasing others. One weekend, he surprised her with a set of paints and canvases. You used to love this, he said, setting them up in the corner of the living room. Maybe it's time to start again. At first, Sophia hesitated, unsure if she still had it in her. But once she picked up a brush, something inside her clicked. Colors flowed onto the canvas, bringing back memories of happier times. When she finished her first painting, a vibrant sunset, Ethan hung it proudly on the wall. That's incredible, he told her sincerely. You're incredible. Moments like these made Sophia realize she wasn't just falling for Ethan's actions. She was falling for who he was, a man who saw her worth and reminded her of her own strength. Still, the unanswered questions lingered in the back of her mind. Who was Ethan really? And why did everyone treat him like royalty? But for now, those doubts felt distant compared to the warmth she felt whenever he smiled at her. Whatever secrets he was hiding, she decided they could wait. For now, she just wanted to enjoy what they had. One evening, Sophia decided to confront Ethan about the growing list of strange clues. She couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something big, and she needed answers. Ethan, she began hesitantly as they sat at the kitchen table. Can we talk? He looked up from his book, sensing the seriousness in her tone. Of course. What's on your mind? Sophia took a deep breath. I've noticed things that don't make sense, like the hotel lease, the fancy car you borrowed, and how people treat you like you're someone important. Are you really just a waiter? Ethan sighed, setting his book aside. He'd known this moment would come eventually. You deserve the truth, he said quietly. But I'm afraid you might hate me for it. Try me, Sophia replied, her voice firm despite the nervous flutter in her chest. Ethan stood and walked to the window, staring out at the city lights below. I'm not a waiter, he admitted finally. That night at your wedding, I was undercover. I own the hotel where your reception was supposed to happen, and several others around the world. I'm a billionaire. Sophia stared at him, stunned. A billionaire? Why didn't you tell me? I wanted someone to see me for who I am, not what I own, Ethan explained, turning to face her. After years of dealing with people who only cared about my money, I started living simply to escape all that. When we met, I saw a chance to experience something real, something honest. Sophia processed his words, her mind racing. So everything, the apartment, the modest lifestyle, it was all an act? No, Ethan said quickly. The way I live isn't an act. It's who I want to be. I don't need luxury to be happy. But I should have told you sooner. I'm sorry. For a long moment, neither spoke. Sophia felt torn between anger and understanding. On one hand, Ethan had lied to her. On the other, his reasons made sense. And she couldn't deny how much he'd changed her life for the better. Finally, she stood and walked over to him. You should have trusted me, she said softly. But I get why you didn't. Just don't keep secrets from me again. Ethan nodded, relief washing over him. I won't. I promise. As they hugged, Sophia realized something important. Ethan's wealth didn't define him or their relationship. What mattered was the love and trust they were building together. With the truth out in the open, Sophia and Ethan worked together to navigate their new reality. At first, it wasn't easy. Sophia still had moments of doubt about whether she'd ever truly known him. But every time she saw how hard he tried to be honest and transparent, her trust grew stronger. Ethan introduced Sophia to his world, showing her the hotels, businesses, and charities he managed. To her surprise, she found herself inspired by his vision for using wealth responsibly. Together, they decided to channel their resources into helping others, funding scholarships, supporting local communities, and creating opportunities for people who needed them most. One evening, as they stood on the balcony of one of Ethan's luxury hotels overlooking a sparkling city skyline, Sophia turned to him with a smile. "You know," she said, "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad Daniel left me at the altar." Ethan raised an eyebrow, amused. "That's quite a statement." "It's true," Sophia continued. "If he hadn't, I wouldn't have met you, and I wouldn't have learned so much about myself, or about what really matters." Ethan pulled her close, his eyes soft with gratitude. "I feel the same way. Meeting you changed everything for me too." As they kissed under the stars, Sophia realized she no longer cared about appearances or societal expectations. What mattered was the connection they shared, the kind built on honesty, love, and mutual respect. Their journey hadn't been perfect, but it had brought them exactly where they were meant to be, side by side, ready to face whatever came next.